The pet industry is going to triple to $320 billion in the next decade, largely within food and treats. Those are obviously the largest categories that are driving that, but services and pet wellness, we see representing about a third of that growth between now and 2030. So big market segment that's really, not being fully addressed today. Recent studies show that 75 million pets will not have access to care by 2030. Largely because there's just not enough professionals to care for them. We got to make, having a pet simple, whether it's from home or from clinic, and from home, results and testing is part of that journey. So excited to be part of the growth that the category is going to continue to experience between now and the end of the decade.
Welcome to DTC Podcast. I'm Eric Dyck. Today we're chatting with Jen Hagness, CEO and President of MySimplePetLab, a company pioneering a much more proactive approach to pet health. Marketers know that pet owners are among the most attractive customer avatars due to their likeliness to have disposable income and their willingness to part with it to keep their animal companions in tip-top shape. This podcast dissects Jen's complete multi-touchpoint CX strategy that promotes excellent LTV along with preemptive pet wellness. I hope you enjoy it. On with the show. I just got back from C-Suite Mastermind in Las Vegas, and I gotta tell you that this room of 100 brands was absolutely buzzing about TapCart mobile shopping apps. A lot of people in the room were using them, and for good reason. Using a mobile app is going to improve your customer retention, and more than that, your customers are just going to love it. Mobile app users have been proven to be more diehard fans of your brand. They've got higher conversion rates, revenue per session, and LTV compared to web-based stores. Fashion brand Princess Polly recently launched their app using TapCart and have seen a staggering 414 times return on their app spend. With TapCart, it's incredibly easy to build, launch, and maintain your mobile app. So go right now and learn more at tapcart.com/DTC. That's tapcart.com/DTC. Jen, welcome to the DTC Podcast. Could you start by telling me why you built MySimplePetLab?
Hi, Eric. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. So MySimplePetLab started with two veterinarians that have been in animal health for the last 40 years combined. They saw a gap in the market, which really kind of mimics what we're seeing in human health, which is a supply and demand issue between access to appointments and physicians and care. And so in the human space, we see Everlywell, Let's Get Checked. There's several companies out there that are doing from-home testing on the diagnostic side. And so they came up with this idea of being able to do general wellness tests. So all of the tests that you do in your clinic with your veterinarian from home. And so that includes GI issues, so diarrhea and tummy troubles, ear infections, skin infections. And today we are really here to create access for pet care. We believe all pets deserve access to care and all pet parents deserve access to care. And we're excited to be building the future of pet care made simple.
How did you validate the concept?
It's a really good question. So a couple of just category kind of indicators. One, during the pandemic, and even before that, we were seeing a rise in the number of pets that were being adopted and or were in people's homes. So today, about 1 in 5 households has a pet. And actually, in the last couple of years, many of those households have 2 pets. So if you look at kind of the supply or the demand, I should say, a lot more pets in the market and a lot more pet parents that are really thinking about pet wellness. So that holistic journey of taking care of the pet. On the veterinary side, unfortunately, we're just not creating enough veterinarians from education. Graduates are not coming out of veterinary care fast enough. So we can't really keep up. And so that combination of not being able to kind of get into the clinic when you need to, from a supply and demand issue, as well as the fact that these are the largest reasons that pet parents would be in clinic. So I have a puppy with diarrhea. I have a lab that's been in the water that has an ear infection. I have a bulldog that's got all these wrinkles and ultimately, has a skin irritation of some kind or allergy. So we chose tests that didn't exist in the market. So general wellness tests that have the largest TAMs, so the largest market opportunity. And then we deliver them in a way that are very, very simple, both from clinic and or from home, to support you either ahead of a vet visit and or in between vet visits.
So was your first move, so in terms of your go-to-market strategy, it sounds like you're in with vets, which is, to start with, that's got to be one prong of your, can you talk a little bit about your go-to-market strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. We're really, really proud of it. So what we've decided early on in our business is that the animal health channel, the veterinary channel, really, really matters. And it matters for so many reasons. It matters because we want veterinarians to have more support. We want vet techs to have some more support. They're really overworked. They're really tired. And ultimately, we wanted to create better tools for them. So we're really focused this year. About 75% of our business will be done in the animal health channel, largely because the profession and industry needs it. They need new tools to care for more pets. So our products really help with more throughput. They can see more pet parents every year with our testing because they can be doing that testing outside of the clinic versus having to get samples in clinic. Interestingly enough, Eric, we have a wonderful creative team at MySimplePetLab. And so we show up in a way that looks very consumer, so very pet parent friendly. That's by design. And so because of that, we've had a significant amount of retail interest. A lot of the big retailers are looking to take more share in pet. It's not just about treats and food anymore. It's about the whole pet. So it's about, testing. It's about, tools that help with getting exercise. It's really about kind of elevating the things that come around food and treats. And so we'll do about 25% of our business this year in the retail channel to really meet pet parents where they are. And we believe that's going to be the sweet spot of cross-pollination between kind of retail and the vet clinic. And again, all with the goal of providing high-quality pet care options for pet parents when and where they need pet care the most.
And besides, I guess it's your innovative business model, I guess, addressing the market need, but what else has really, and you were saying your packaging specifically, is that sort of the formula for getting noticed by retail? Would you say what's been the biggest factor in getting retail's attention?
I think at the end of the day, the retailers are aware of the access gap. They're aware that pet parents are looking for new ways to care for their pets. If you can't get into the clinic, you're going to go buy an over-the-counter product probably. You're going to try something new. And there's this wonderful ecosystem of new brands that are being born right now in the pet category that have, better for you offerings that are, solving problems because everyone's in the same boat. It's really difficult to get into your veterinarian, exactly when you need to. People are also really transient. So they may live, in upstate New York half the year and they may live in California half the year. I think the pandemic has really opened up kind of the lines of how we live our lives and how we see, veterinarians or don't every day. I think the reality is we chose MySimplePetLab because what we do is not simple. But Eric, if as part of the next generation of the animal health community, if we can't make pet ownership easy and make pet parents, hey, it's simple. You open it, activate it, grab your result, drop it in the mail. It needs to be that simple, even though we know it's far more complex than that. So I think our packaging is one way that we connect with pet parents and veterinarians to say, we're based in science. We have our own diagnostic lab. We run them just like the big incumbents do, but we're going to make it simple and accessible. And we're going to be a little bit more relatable maybe than the competition. That's gone a long ways for us so far.
This is one of the oldest things in the book, but when you're selling digital products, you make them look and I'm sure they are three-dimensional in retail items as well. They are the three-dimensional boxes, but it just makes it so much more concrete than if you were to have a 2D tile there,
Yes. And we've got a couple of different formats. This is our direct-to-consumer format. So lighter packaging, you don't have to have an image to sell kind of at shelf. We'll be launching boxes this year as well. So you'll get that really great kind of like front of box, dog or cat. We work in both types. So you'll get that kind of great billboard effect, for in brick and mortar. But we've been having a lot of fun kind of balancing that juxtaposition of being scientific and approachable. It's not easy to do, but so far it's been proving to do really well for us.
And what is the retail landscape like for products like this? Is it in pet stores alone? Is it in Walmart? What does retail look like?
It's a really good question. So if you look at some of the dog DNA tests or the microbiome tests, many of them are on Amazon today. Many of them have an e-commerce play within both mass and specialty, and then obviously the independent channel as well. And so we're finding a little bit of a mix of both. So our plan for this year is to play across specialty and with one of the large mass players. And really start there so that we can kind of create this really great opportunity to launch with a big partner, a big idea, because we think what we're doing is a big idea. And then on the animal health side, we're partnering with systems that have plus 100 locations that are more modern, more digitally influenced and savvy to ultimately bring our products to market.
And again, these will be boxes on shelf space with your brand.
They will, yes. In retail, they will be boxes on the shelf, yes.
Very cool. And then, so digitally, what has been your D2C approach? How are you going direct to the consumer?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we built our website, kind of from the bottom up and everything. We're a tech-first company. And so when we went through building our website, for us, it's not just a website. It's also how we house all of our results and all of our data. So it's kind of all coupled together. So we did a ton of search engine optimization as part of that. From there, we built into Amazon. So our products are all available on Amazon today. Interestingly enough, testing does 4 to 1 on Amazon what human tests do. So for every 1 human test sold, there's about 4 pet tests that are sold. So the consumer already knows to go to Amazon to buy their pet tests, which is interesting, right? So it's been a little bit of a mix for us. We are definitely doing some longer form articles to acquire customers kind of within Google search to get them into our site and then convert them. There's a little bit of an offer, kind of system there where if you're a first time purchaser or you're a repeat purchaser, you get a little bit of a discount. And then I would say on the Amazon side, it's been interesting. I would say that oftentimes we're being purchased with other products. So with other tests. So I feel like there's kind of a drafting happening within the testing category where when you go to buy a DNA test, ours pop up and we're getting some acquisition that way, in addition to all the optimization that we're doing on Amazon.
Are you doing different tests than what your competitors are on Amazon? So they'll get maybe a test that they're used to getting from one of your competitors and they'll be like, oh, there are these other tests available?
That's right. That's exactly right. So I think, you look at a microbiome and a DNA test, wonderful tests, wonderful companies, but it's a little bit of, you maybe do it once or twice during your pet's lifetime, maybe more with microbiome. Whereas our tests are really meant to be everyday wellness tests where you can use them if there's an acute challenge just in time. You can also use them preventatively and do them, on an annual basis as part of you're supposed to have 2 fecals a year for dogs and cats. So we're kind of in this interesting space of just in time and general wellness. And our frequency is just higher than that of some of the competitive, they're not even competitive SKUs, of some of the different types of tests that are being done within pet diagnostics.
It's a really good example of being strategic about that in a way, right? Where you're taking advantage of an existing marketplace and Amazon's desire to constantly be feeding people new related products. So it's just sort of a perfect storm there.
Yeah, the Amazon relationship's only getting better for us. And so, I think we are by and far largely a partnership-based model. So you'll see us available in more retailers and more, vet practices, but Amazon continues to still deliver on access. And that's really important to us. You can go on Amazon and get our tests within 24 hours. You can get your results then within, give or take another 24 hours or 48 hours. So you're looking at tests within 3 days. And for a pet parent that has a concern, that's meaningful. It could be taking them 3 to 4 weeks to get into the clinic. So we're really excited to offer new solutions to, really care for your pet from home when and how you feel it works best for you.
You mentioned long form articles on Google. Is that all organic? Are those optimized towards SEO, or what's the play with them?
Yeah, so a lot of it is organic. We are starting to do more, pay to play, for lack of better words. But we've been really thoughtful about kind of how much we're investing to drive just direct to consumer, largely because our Amazon business has been doing so well. But I think as we go forward, what we're finding is pet parents are Googling a concern. So they could be Googling, diarrhea, on Thanksgiving, for example. And we've got 2 amazing veterinarians on staff, which is great. They're our co-founders. They're brilliant. And so we're going to be doing we're doing more long form articles that really talk about those pet parent concerns and then give them real solutions, ours being one of them, that they can ultimately, use to care for their pet. And so far that's going really, really well for us in terms of, they're reading the articles, they're taking the time to research, and then they're coming to our site to purchase.
Very cool. How big is your team now?
So we've got about 15 leaders on our team today, and actually just got out of a meeting. We're going to be looking to maybe double that in the next couple of months. And so, Eric, I think by the end of 23, we'll be at about 25 to 30, which is just so much fun. Our team is this wonderful mix of like animal health leaders and scientists and retail leaders and consumer, brand leaders. And you put us all together, and it's just fun to see this like juxtaposition of science and nerdery and super smart people that, really understand the scientific landscape with, people like you and I, Eric, that want, if it's diarrhea or it's poop, like let's call it what it is, tummy troubles. So we've got this great ability to relate to pet parents, but also really relate and get credibility with veterinarians, which is, it's not easy to do. Like the likeness is like Ben and Jerry's, like premium but playful. It's not easy to do, but when you do it really, really well, it's really, really fun to watch and obviously be a part of.
What would you say was your most impactful hire that you made in 2022?
That's a great question. We've been really, really fortunate, Eric, that since we started the company, like the founding team is still with us largely. So like our head of marketing, number 2 employee, a head of tech, number 3 or 4, just an amazing team on top of our co-founders. Really feel fortunate in that. This last year, we added a vice president of finance, Mark Foley is his name, and he has just been instrumental in really helping shape kind of the current and future financial landscape of our business. And when you talk about multiple channels, retail and animal health or the veterinary clinic, when you talk about multiple types of tests coming into our lab, we're largely a logistics company. We really are at the heart of what we do. And Mark has been this great mix of, has a huge heart and cares about animal health and people so much, but is incredibly smart. And so he makes, similar to our brand, he makes things that are really hard look really simple. And that's been really, really fun to kind of watch him start to put his fingerprint on the business. He's just getting started.
In terms of something that he is hard that he makes look simple, give me an example. Something like forecasting of how many sales will come from different channels or things like that. Give me an example.
Yeah, I mean, we're a component-heavy business. We're a tech-heavy business. And so, again, what may look simple, in terms of getting everything inside of a kit that also talks to everything inside the kit from a technology perspective, everything in our kits today, it's all barcode enabled. So there's quite a bit that has to go into making sure that your activation talks to your barcode, that talks with your return envelope, that gets you your results in a way that, is seamless. And so I think between the manufacturers that we work with, the unit economics of sourcing both overseas and domestically, as well as really the future, we're going to be doing some new SKUs within bulk for ear and skin, which are really interesting, which means we'll have large batches coming back to our facility versus kind of a one-to-one. He's just been instrumental in really kind of breaking those numbers down so we can really purely see margins, purely see opportunity, see kind of where everything's at in the mix, and ultimately preserve cash, which is the name of the game, as all of us in the startup world know. He's just been wonderful to work with. And also, I would say this, highly creative, Eric. So whenever you have a financial leader that's creative, especially in an early stage, like you're doing something right, because you got to get creative, just creative in the sense of you got to think outside the box in order to get things done.
Yeah, and that's not always the most typical with the finance types.
No, not at all. Not at all. We love our financial leaders, but a little creativity goes a long way.
That's awesome. So obviously a huge part of this business is going to be retention and the customer experience. So like you say, you're offering tests that can be run a lot more often than the once a year type tests. What does your retention strategy look like? And what's the breakdown of the business in terms of like new tests versus people buying old ones or buying tests again?
It's such a good question. So we see today repeat purchases are almost 40%. So once they understand how it works, it's new, right? You're putting poop, in an envelope in the mail. You're not taking it in your car. It's different, right? And so once we ultimately get them to try that first experience, honestly, we're seeing a really, really nice adoption. And I think we're seeing that for a couple of reasons. Interestingly enough, on Amazon, we actually sell multiple twofers, so 2 kits at a time. And I think that's a little bit because one, if you have a dog with an ear infection, you're most likely going to retest after you do your antibiotic. So there's usually kind of a test and recheck that you don't have to go to the clinic ultimately to do your recheck. So I think there's a little bit of convenience. Secondarily, most of the households now have more than one pet. So logistically, Eric, it's kind of like having 2 kids. So I think we're seeing pet parents that may be taking their dogs in, maybe doing their cats from home. It really becomes much more logistical when you've got more than one. So I feel really good about our retention rate. I think it's only going to continue to get better as we bundle it, in the animal health sector where you get your test ahead of a visit versus going out and buying kind of a one-off on your own. And we're going to be launching some new product in second quarter next year, which I'd love to come back and talk more about if you'll have me back. But I think we're going to open up some additional ways to care for your pet that are not just testing, but they're really OTC and care focused, so that you really can care for your pet just in time, depending on where they're at, what symptoms they're showing, with all vet approved products from home.
Very cool. How you mentioned total addressable markets when it comes to these kinds of tests. How do you see the size of this market?
So the pet industry in general, to include food and treats, is going to triple to $320 billion in the next decade. Literally, it's going to be a 3x. Recent studies show that 75 million pets will not have access to care by 2030, largely because there's just not enough professionals to care for them. And largely, food and treats will lead the largest kind of, piece of that growth. But we really see this being, a plus $1 billion category, multi-billion dollar category, because it really fits within services. So we see ourselves in the vet clinic as a service, ultimately, before you go into your wellness visit, that ultimately you get your tests shipped to your house and then you do them before you come in. And or if I call in because I have an acute challenge like ear or skin, similarly, that clinic can drop ship a test to me. I can do my test from home and then, have a conversation with my clinic once my results are ready. All of our results are auto-shared, Eric. So when you get your results as a pet parent, your veterinarian gets them at the same time. So they're really connected. We're not trying to disintermediate the veterinarian in any way. That being said, services is one that's growing. And so whether it's vet services, we're actually seeing interest in the grooming services. So your groomer could see your dog more than your veterinarian, maybe every 60 days if you're, getting them groomed. Well, they're going to be able to see ear and skin infections better than most. And so interestingly enough, we're starting to see that market starting to build. And then lastly, on daycare and grooming and boarding, a lot of them have to have a fecal exam in order to be, to be able to go into daycare or have their vaccines. So it's really interesting. I would say, I think there's a huge opportunity for ongoing growth. I think ear cytologies and skin cytologies are net new. So that's kind of where we can really lean in and own the category and carve it out. But it's been interesting to see how many places testing is part of the journey. So we're very much part of an experience, whether it's grooming, boarding, or daycare, or veterinary services, versus, the only piece. It's very much part of the service package versus just the service package of just testing.
Totally. If we were to give you a $50,000 grant to be used in your marketing in Q1, how would you deploy it in your business today?
We're gearing up to launch. So talked about the fact that we own, routine testing in pet, building it, growing it, and super fun. I often say this to my team, we have to walk and chew gum. We don't just get to do one thing really, really well. And I know that's a little unique in the startup world. Doesn't mean we're not focused. We're very, very focused. But we're going to be launching a new care assortment in Q2. And it's, again, first to market, and it's really unique. And it all delivers on access to better pet care from home, vet-approved pet care from home. So I would probably put the $50,000 towards that launch. I most likely would do some combination of a virtual play, so a digital play, as well as maybe some micro events in big markets, maybe in New York, maybe in Florida, maybe in California, markets that we see really have that vet shortage, and or have high pricing. We're in a recession as well, so pricing comes into play in terms of access. And I think it would be a combination thereof of a user experience with pet parents, and then probably an education program in the virtual space that really helps pet parents understand why this is unique and differentiated. That's probably what I'd do. And I still might do it, but I probably will. But that's probably what we would do with 50,000. It'd be a combination of digital, actual in-person micro events in key markets.
I also feel what the idea I would give to you would be to try potentially, I could see TV advertising being really good for your product. In the same way I see TV ads for like, it's funny, like nail fungus. It's like, oh, there's nothing. It's a funny commercial. I don't know if they have it in the US too, but it's a guy saying, oh, there's nothing wrong with my nails, and the kids are like, oh, your nails are gross, and then it's a doctor being like, yes, actually, it's this. And I just feel like you could have a commercial where someone is sort of like seeing all these things wrong with their pet potentially. And then sort of just having that dialogue in a commercial, just letting more, because I feel like there are a lot of people that aren't problem aware, that they know that they don't know that they can go and get their labs done. And I feel like you could do a Super Bowl commercial, not for $50,000. You need a little bit more, but I feel like TV could be a really good venue for you.
You know what? I think that's really interesting, Eric. I constantly kind of tell my team and myself, like, not to play old tapes. And what that means is kind of when you've been in categories longer, or you've been, building companies or brands, whatever it may be, for, let's just say 2 decades, which we have been, you kind of, you don't want to play old tapes, meaning like just because it didn't work 10 years ago doesn't mean it wouldn't work now, or because it worked 10 years ago doesn't mean it won't work now. And it's interesting to hear you say that in terms of just like a reinsurgence of some of the channels that we might not have historically thought would make sense could actually be really, really relevant today. So I like the thinking. I'll let you know if we need you to be in the commercial.
What does your AOV look like?
So our tests today retail for right around $100 a piece. And so our AOV is right around $100. It's not perfect, but it's fairly in line. We sell most of our tests at full price. And so it's either, that $100 or that's $200 value if you're buying more than one, directionally. And then some things that tick that up are if you overnight, your testing services, which we can definitely do. The new assortment that we're bringing in the spring is going to have a slightly lower price point. And so we're really trying to kind of create products that fill the market, but also address kind of the recession in terms of where people are at and what they're willing to spend and what they can spend. So we actually believe the future will be that pet parents will buy both the test and care product, whether it's in a bundle or whether it's they do one and then the other. And so I think the new assortment should really help not only with frequency, but also with keeping our AOV kind of, up and to the right, which is great.
I feel like probiotics too. Every time I go to the vet, they're always loading me up on probiotics. I feel like there's a really good pet probiotic opportunity. You already sell those?
We don't. And, here's the reality. Supplements business is massive. And, we look at companies like Native Pet who are just doing, they're doing the pet supplements companies or categories so right, better ingredients, fewer ingredients. And so that's not a category that we're going to play in. I think that there could be some consumable products that go into the kits that we create, but we'll let the companies that, that do supplements full time do those. Super needed. Nutrition's very, very important. And there's lots of really cool emerging brands that are building some amazing supplements today. Native Pet's one that we like a lot.
And to think about it potentially in terms of partnership, right? You're building an incredible audience for them and vice versa. With your audience, there may be an opportunity to draft in other areas as well, not just on Amazon.
Absolutely. I mean, again, I think we're seeing so much humanization happening within pet where, similar to how you may buy a hydration product for yourself and a supplement for yourself, we're seeing, hydration and supplements moving into pet care, and we're seeing toppers move into pet care, to supplement nutrition, and we're seeing more products that, are more sensitive to allergies for pets. There's just a lot happening right now in terms of really bringing more pet-focused, just wellness solutions to pet parents as they take care of their pets, just like they would take care of any of their children. They are their children a lot of times. So it's exciting to see kind of quality of products increasing and getting better as pet parents really lean in on pet wellness.
Nice. Well, as a pet parent myself, I'm just looking at my 13-year-old Woodle, who everyone still thinks they think he's a puppy because he has so much vitality. So I must be doing something right, but he has not been checked for worms in a while. So I might have to hit you up for a test.
We would love to test him. And there's lots of things that we can do once we have your sample. That's the other unique thing about our business is we have a full reference lab. So once we have your sample, we can do PCR testing. We can, we can actually do, fecal egg counts. There's lots of things that we can do to make sure that your pet is healthy, all from the very, very comfortable couch that you have at home.
And I've always wanted to mail someone poop, so it's a win-win.
It is a little bit funny if you say it, but then again, you think about putting it in your car and driving it to your clinic, and that feels a little bit outdated as well. Let's be real.
Of course. Let's be real. Let's keep it real, Jen. And keeping it real, we'll check back in to see if you've doubled by the end of the year and hear back about some of your awesome product launches. Thanks for coming on the D2C podcast.
Thank you so much, Eric. It's been fun.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. If you're not a subscriber to our newsletter, you can do that right now at directtoconsumer.co. I'm Eric Dyck, and this has been the D2C Podcast. We'll see you next time.